Our guest today is chairman of the Illinois State Board of Education. His entire adult life has been devoted to public service, and specifically, his entire life stems from his belief that every child deserves a high-quality education. Our guest today has devoted his life to serving humanity and serves as senior pastor of Salem Baptist Church. He earned his BA in Religion and Philosophy from Bishop College in Dallas, Texas. Our guest today was born and raised in Chicago, where he and his wife, this is how smart he is, she's here today, Jamel, reside. Let's give her a round of applause. City Club, welcome. Thank you very much. He and Jamel are the proud parents of 4 beautiful children. One is here today, his daughter Jasmine. Jasmine, let's give her a round of applause. They have 4 beautiful children and 1 extra beautiful grandchild. Ladies and gentlemen, Reverend James Meeks. Reverend.
Thanks so much, Jay. It is often said that grandchildren are the reward that you get for not killing your children. And so that's the highlight of my life, my one grandchild. So many people are here. So many people have been introduced. I'm glad that I don't have to go back over the list. But who could not help but be excited and delighted for Justice Ann Burke? I'm so glad to see you. It's always good to see you. And there are so many of you who are here today, and thank you for accepting the tickets that I purchased in order to fill the room today. I'm honored to have been invited to speak at the City Club of Chicago today, and I am going to do my very best not to get into as much trouble as the fella yesterday who spoke here. As a matter of fact, I have a Donald Trump tie, and I wouldn't even wear it because I was afraid that somebody would recognize it and tie us together. For those of you who don't know it, the City Club was organized in 1903 as a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. And the club was formed to investigate and improve urban conditions and affairs. And I can say with all confidence and with all joy that you have achieved that goal. As I prepared to give my remarks today, I couldn't help but look at and reflect my time in the field of public education. It started about 20 years ago when then CEO Paul Vallis asked our church, who is quite large, to help with some schools in our zip code in the 60628 zip code. And so we did. We started by seeking to mentor students who were behind, who were not at grade level. We were successful with the students that were assigned to us. However, I knew that the success that we had accomplished was not enough. Anytime that I'm asked or given a task, I try to do my homework. So I began a little research, and I began to read everything I could on the subject of educating or education of the urban child. Specifically, how do we educate children of color and children who live in poverty? Bless you. If you were in our church, that's what we say too, bless you. How do we educate children of color? And how do we educate children who live in poverty? And so our church continued to mentor children. As a matter of fact, I then took a program to Arnie Duncan when he became CEO, and I asked him to allow our church to mentor third graders and eighth graders who were behind in grade level. But more importantly, I asked him to let us mentor 4 schools who were on the academic failing watch list in the 60628 zip code area. And the trick was we had to get these schools to open on Saturday. We had to convince kids to come to school on Saturday. Their homeroom teacher had to come, and then I had to find 300 adults who would every Saturday for 8 weeks, from 9 until 12, to work with these students one-on-one. And at the end of that program, all 4 schools we got off of the academic failing watch list. The question, however, that continued to plague my mind, and the question that should really bother all of you who are here and who care this morning, and that is this: how can children in 2nd and 3rd grade be so far behind academically that they need aggressive intervention? You're in 2nd grade. Why do you need, I can understand intervention, but why do you need aggressive intervention? And how did you get so far behind by the time you reach the 3rd grade? Well, it has something to do with this thing called the achievement gap that plagues every school that houses Black, Hispanic, and children of poverty. The research goes back about 25 years, but the bad thing is the problem remains the same today. We've been researching it for decades, but we still have the same problem. This is truly what we need to focus on, and this is what I want to spend my time dealing with today and proposing perhaps some cure. I think I would be remiss if I go further. I forgot to acknowledge our board members who are here today. Lula Ford. Lula, will you stand? A board member, Illinois State Board. And Steve, did you make it? Steve Guilford is here, a member of the Illinois State Board. The reason I thought of them at that point is because any cure is going to involve those 2 people. The achievement gap refers to any significant and persistent disparity in academic performance or educational attainment between groups of students, such as white students and minority students, for example, or students from higher income and students from lower income households. Now, the data, Robin, clearly suggests that we are making some strides in Illinois. But the strides that we're making, we really can't brag about it, and our successes are largely segmented because we're not making many successes in districts of high poverty. We're not making many successes in minority districts. For instance, if we look at the effects of poverty, the statistics are even more dismal. In a school district where less than 20% of the families are low income, 76.9% of those students are at or above state benchmarks. In a school district where there's less than 20% low income students, 77% of the kids are passing. By contrast, in school districts where 80% or more of the students are in poverty, only 37% of the kids are at state standard. Remember now, these numbers represent the kids that are at state standard. We, as a state, cannot adequately sleep well at night when we have 37% of kids who are at state standard. In many of our school districts, 2/3 of the students show little or no progress. Who could ever be happy with the fact that Illinois high schools made national headlines when a bleak study hit the front page of the Chicago Tribune on April 21st, 2006? The study confirmed that of every 100 freshmen entering Chicago public high schools, only 6 would earn a bachelor's degree by age 25. Of every 100 freshmen starting high school, only 6 would get a bachelor's degree by age 25. However, when you segment out African American boys or Latino boys, only 3 out of every 100 would receive a degree by the age of 25. My ambivalence today is this: I cannot in good conscience use the term achievement gap. In reality, almost 50% of the children who attend schools in the state of Illinois are either children of color, they live in poverty, or both. The fact that these students are not prepared to go to high school and be successful, and trust me, they know that they're not prepared. They know when they enter into high school that they're not ready. The fact that they're not prepared, it means that we have students who enter high school with no hope of ever graduating and no hope for the future. What happens to a young person who's 16 or 17 with no hope for the future? Further, what happens to the community? What happens to the state? And what happens to the city? So everybody is concerned, and rightfully so, and we are alarmed by the enormous violence in the city of Chicago. There is not a weekend where there are not multiple shootings. There is not a weekend where there are not multiple murders. I believe, I read a statistic that we have killed, Chicago young people have killed more of each other than we did during the Iraq War. What's happening? Why is this happening? And why is this allowed to continue to happen? I'll tell you why. The violence first is taking place in their grade schools, because whatever the thing is that is causing them not to be at grade level, whatever we're doing that's causing them to go to high school and then not be able to compete and to go on to college, we are literally sending kids out into the street with no hope. And with no hope for the future, when we graduated, many of us that are in this room who are given the appearance of successful people, we knew that we were going to college, Ron. We knew that we had hope. We knew, Bert, that we had a chance to go on and to do something because we had a good foundation behind us. But children today who are dropping out in the 8th and in the 9th grade, they know that they have no future. They know that they have no hope. And so the streets become their home, and violence becomes what they duplicate and what they continue to replicate. So look for a moment, if you will, at the data from 2013 and 2014, our state's testing of just elementary school students. Elementary school students across the state of Illinois, 59% of all of our students are meeting or exceeding state standards, 59%. However, when we break that down, in reading, 67% of white students are meeting and exceeding standards, 43% of Hispanic students, 36% of African American students. We look at math, white students, 70% are meeting or exceeding state standards. 49% of Hispanics are meeting and exceeding state standards. African American students, 38%. And so my research identified why third grade is a critical milestone and the most important for students. And I believe that our goal has to be this. And if you want to take away from today's little talk, and I wish you guys were at the Salem church because this little talk would turn into an hour sermon. The takeaway is that everybody in this room, we must aggressively pursue and achieve one goal. And the one goal is to make sure that every student in the state of Illinois is reading at or above grade level by the time they finish third grade. That's the takeaway. We have to make sure that every student, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of income, we have to make sure that they're reading at or above grade level when they leave the third grade. They have, if a student leaves third grade and they're not at grade level, they have great difficulty in catching up because all of the other subjects become complex and complicated as they go on from grade to grade. Number two, they are at a greater risk of becoming high school dropouts than proficient readers. We want our young people to read. We want them to learn to. I heard that if you can read, you can reason. Third of all, they are more likely to receive, if you can't read at the end of third grade, you are more likely to receive public assistance. And then the fourth thing is that if you can't read by the end of the third grade, you're more likely to be incarcerated. If a person is incarcerated, they cost our state over $300,000 over their lifetime. It is said that most states decide how many prisons to build based on how many children are at grade level by the end of the third grade. So now that in that we know that and we believe that that statistic to be true, then it's up to all of us to make sure that every child can read by the end of the third grade. Now, there are some factors, there are some variables that affect third grade reading performance. Number one, economic status. Number two, race. Number three, disability status. Family structure. The school district's ability to attract and retain quality teachers and administrators, and available resources for schools to provide strategies for struggling readers. It is for that reason that I decided in 2002 to run for the Illinois State Senate. I ran for the Illinois State Senate for one reason. And if you would look up my brilliant Senate career, you will discover that in 10 years, I had one bill. Where's Kirk Dillon? Kurt was there. You will discover, I had two bills. I had the voucher bill that Kurt worked. I had one bill, and it was to increase funding for education. I would not be deterred. I kept my eyes on that one prize. I wanted to do everything I could to increase funding for education because an over-reliance on property taxes, that meant that a child who lived in a property-rich district, they could receive a good education. a child in a poverty poor district, they couldn't. And so the one thing that I tried to make sure happened was that Illinois adequately funded our schools. So in 2006, Governor Rod Blagojevich, I challenged him to increase funding for education. He said he wasn't going to do it. So I decided that I would run against him. I think a lot of things. I just really think a lot of things. First of all, I think I really should have done it and he wouldn't be in jail. Because if I had run in 2006, I would be the governor. I would have appointed myself as senator. And there would be no questions about the Senate seat. My lawyer then and now is here in the room, Bert Olson. So Bert went to every Rod Blagojevich meeting with me. And Rod Blagojevich tricked Bert. No, Rod Blagojevich convinced us that he convinced me that he would put $2 billion into public education in order for me to get out of the race. I mean, I was so serious that I had the name of the party, and the name of the party was People's First. I had ordered the airplane for the fly around. I had the weekend prepared. The launch was underway. And then Governor Blagojevich said, okay, you're right. I know that you're passionate about it. And so let's increase funding for education. He said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to sell the tollway and put the $2 billion into education. And so I believed him. I said, I'll only believe it if we have a news conference and you explain to the whole state what you're going to do. And then Governor Blagojevich, we had the news conference. He explained it to the state. He didn't do it. And all people could say was, Meeks, you got tricked. Meeks, Rod Blagojevich tricked you. It wasn't about me ever. It was about the children of the state of Illinois receiving a quality education. But you know, in the church, we have a saying that God moves in mysterious ways. And sometimes God will put you in the right path or in the right place at the right time. So a few years ago, a guy wanted to meet me. He wanted to meet me. He wanted to have a conversation with me about how to improve education in the state of Illinois. I could not even pronounce his last name. And this guy was coming to meet me by the name of Bruce Rauner. And on the morning of the meeting, I kept referring to him as Bruce Rauner. And my administrator said, listen, that man's name is Rauner. If you don't get Rauner correct before this meeting. And the governor and I talked for 3 hours. We were supposed to meet for 30 minutes. We talked for 3 hours about how to improve education here in the state of Illinois. I decided to support him for governor, even though I have been a lifelong Democrat. I decided to support him because I was tired of nothing happening and nothing changing and nothing taking place. And in turn, I did not ask for anything. I didn't ask for an appointment. I didn't ask for a job. I have a job. I didn't ask for to be an advisor. I didn't ask for anything. So he called me after he won, and he said, I want to put you on the Illinois State Board of Education. And I said, cool, I'll do it. I'll help any way I can. I was looking at the news, and they announced me chairman of the Illinois State Board. of Education. I called back. I said, I thought I was on the board. He said, no, I asked you clearly to be the chairman of the board. This leads me, this might be him now. I know you told me not to come. I came anyway. No. This leads me to what I think we can do going forward. There's no need in continuing to hash the dismal statistics of how we got or how we are where we are now. Let's look at what we can do about it. The esteemed educational scholar Ronald Edmonds came up with something brilliant, Robin. I think this is the most brilliant thing that could ever have been uttered by an educator. You know what he said? All children can learn. All children can learn. Well, I think that we always have known that all children can learn. If we truly believe that, what are we going to put in place to make sure that all children are learning? Edmonds also established a platform that would achieve success. He said we need three things: strong administrative leadership, high expectations, and an orderly atmosphere. We need our administrators to be strong in their ability to lead a school district. And we need to tell every kid when they enter school, you're going to get this. You're going to learn, because we don't accept failure for an answer. And then we need to make sure that all of the environments are orderly and each school is run well. And that's why it's going to take some additional resources and some help. I leave you with this cure, and I want to propose 5 things that I hope to work on at the Illinois State Board of Education. Steve is here, Lula is here, and I know that we're going to work to make our schools better. First of all, I want you to be clear that I think our goal should be that every student is reading above grade level by the end of 3rd grade. But I'll come back to that. Number 1, we have to expand access to quality preschool. We have to expand access. Unfortunately, kindergarten is too late. Language and literacy development begins at birth, and the gaps are starting to appear well before kindergarten. We're finding, John, most students who are coming into kindergarten well behind. And so we have to start before kindergarten. Number 2, we need to support districts' efforts to provide full-day kindergarten programs. Here's the big one. Number 3, we have to locate and provide funding specifically for literary or reading specialists in order to diagnose reading difficulties and provide early intervention. I think that we've gotten away from reading in our society. And I think that one of the things that you and I used to be able to do was at least read. Nowadays, young people are texting, they don't even text the whole word. And even in texting, all you have to do is text 2 letters and the rest of the word will come up for you. You don't even have to know how to spell. Number 4, we have to figure out a way to engage and support parents in early language and literacy development. Whatever happened to the days of flashcards, where parents would have at home flashcards so their children can learn A and B and C, and C is for cat, or if you wanted to deal with Springfield today, C is for casualty. But whatever happened to flashcards and everybody in the home got involved in making sure that we have to return to that. And then number 5, we have to improve the opportunity for teachers to access professional development. Things change. Systems change. And so we have to make sure that we are funding our teachers and allowing them to go on and to advance in their craft. Remember the goal that all students will learn to read and read well by the end of the 3rd grade. So I spoke in East St. Louis, and all of you know that East St. Louis is one of our most impoverished areas here in the state. And I challenged East St. Louis on a cold winter night that they should, and I made them a promise too, that I promised to help the district with computers if they would increase 3rd grade reading scores. And so they started at libraries, at churches, after school programs. They enrolled 200 3rd graders in a 3rd grade reading program. McGraw-Hill provided them the resources. They just sent me an email yesterday to say 50% of the 3rd graders in East St. Louis, they have improved in reading when they took their last test. Now, I don't know where I'm going to get the computers that I promised them. And so consider this. Those of you who have a business, those of you who have a law firm, those of you who care, how about getting your coworkers together and saying, let's sponsor a reading specialist during the summer for low-income children, for children who are below grade level in reading. Let's sponsor a reading specialist. Let's pay somebody to go into areas, to go into school districts. The summer school is only 2 months, and in some cases, it's only a month. We need reading specialists. You know, we keep talking about it takes a village to raise a child. Where is the village? Where are the business people? Where are the professionals? Where are those of us who've already graduated? Anybody can listen to a 3rd grader read, but we need more reading specialists. And I hope that with your help, with your support, and with your prayers, that we at the Illinois State Board of Education, we can lead this effort in making sure that every child who graduate or who matriculates and who finishes 3rd grade, we can lead the effort, but we need your help to make sure that every child can learn to read. And I hope that this time next year, when I'm invited back to speak, that I can honestly report to you that we are meeting our goal in Illinois and every 3rd grader is at or above grade level in reading. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to what I had to say.
We got a few questions. If you have any questions for, we have people would pick it up. I mean, we got people here. All right. Put your question right up there. You showed a little energy. Well, Reverend, I know it was a great speech, but we got a question from your attorney. The Honorable Mr. Odelson, we got enough questions. That's it. The question box is closed. Mr. Odelson, I have so many great lines, but you have so many against me, so I'm not going to say the damn thing. Clarification. You are not a lifelong Democrat. You ran as the chairman of the Honesty and Integrity Party, otherwise known as HIP, and remained an independent until you ran for re-election to the Senate. You beat the regular Democratic candidate, Boy, it's really good when the attorney is really turning on his client. Isn't that great? Also, where are you now? Here's the question after all those digs. Also, where are you now on vouchers? By the way, he's right over there.
And he's 100% correct. I did not run as a Democrat in 2002. I ran as a Democrat, and we beat a Republican and a Democrat. And so we were the Honesty and Integrity Party, so you're right about that. Where am I now on vouchers? I still believe that vouchers are a good idea for children who are in school districts of poverty and students who are in school districts where there is an achievement gap and there's no effort or plan to close the achievement gap. The voucher bill that I had, and Kirk Dillard worked with me strongly on the voucher bill, it affected 59 schools, that's all. The lowest 10% of schools in the Chicago public school, it was affecting just those 59 schools. Guess what? They're now closed. They're now closed. And so if we had been successful and those parents would have had a chance, you only get a chance to be in second and third grade. Well, I was in there 3 times, but you only get a chance one time. And we can't wait until we fix the system in some instances. And we have to give parents an opportunity to get their kid out of a school if it's failing.
Okay. We have a question here from Marie Donovan from DePaul University. What are your plans and vision for bringing together the 3 main agencies, IBHE, ISBE, ICCB? If you don't know what those are, you're tough, because I don't know what they are either. Whereby they no longer duplicate efforts and enact rules and policies that negatively affect each other. Now, she has no opinion on this, obviously, so go right ahead.
I don't have a plan, but I would be so happy to meet with you. You know, one of the things that I think that educators do or people do is that they try to answer something like they know it. I don't know that. I don't have a plan for it. I don't have a plan for it, but I'm happy to meet with you and let's talk about it. And let's see what can be done about it. Obviously, you don't think it's working, so let's talk about it.
Wouldn't it have been great if he was governor and answered a question like that? All right, Charlie Mangini, our own trumpeter and the president of Vandercook's College of Music. Quote, our candidates who want to become licensed teachers must pass the basic skills test, a content area test, and now the EdTPA. By the way, Einstein, if he went to school, would take a lot longer. Would have gotten his degree and taught at Princeton easier than to teach in public schools in Illinois. What tests do ISBE employees need to pass to be qualified to administrate our programs?
Fantastic. Ain't no problem at all. Not only is my attorney here from when I ran for every election that I run for, but the past attorney of the state board, Nikki Baser, is here with the answer to that question. Nikki, what's the answer? Every employee at ISBE is highly qualified for the jobs that they have.
I think you're going to be able to answer this one. All right. Will Davis, Governor State University, a place that I used to frequent. How do we give urban schools the same resources as other schools in wealthy property tax areas? Well, Will, I'll just paraphrase. How do we even up how we give urban schools the same quality resources that suburban wealthy school districts get? How do you even up the odds?
I would want to try to frame this question as if I'm taking some credit. The governor vetoed 19 bills the other day. He signed one. That was the educational bill. That's the only bill that the governor has signed. Every state agency has taken a cut. There's one agency that didn't take a cut. As a matter of fact, we received $225 million more. That is the Illinois State Board of Education. I would love to frame that as if I'm taking some credit for it. This year, there is 85 million, is it 85 or 87, Robin? 85 million dollars for us to shore up school districts that are in poverty. And so we hope to be getting that $85 million more to school districts who are in poverty. So school districts this year who are in poverty will receive more money than they received probably in the last 6 years.
Okay. 2 more questions. Some of these are outside of what the Reverend was talking about, and we've already sandbagged them a couple of times. All right. Nancy Brandt, St. Paul's Faith and Public Issues Task Force. You asked 3 questions. Wait a minute. No, I won't go there. I will not go there, Jill Zwick. I know what you're thinking. All right, we'll take the first one because that's a real first-rate question. Not that the others aren't, but that's the first one. Do you support the proposed new school aid formula that's being pushed by Senator Monner? I think he's from Champaign, isn't he? Where? Say Central Illinois and look at a damn map of Illinois. Okay. Do you support the proposed new school aid formula by Senator Monner, who I believe is from somewhere in Illinois?
Yes, Senator Monner is from downstate, and he has Senate Bill 1 that was Senate Bill 16, and it's a bill it was Senate Bill 16. It was Senate Bill 16 last year. This year is Senate Bill 1. I like a lot in Senator Monner's bill. I like a lot. I want to leave it right there. I like a whole lot. I mean, not only like a lot, I like a whole lot. Andy is one of my good friends, and I like a whole lot. And in his proposal.
You saw that little deft hand. We never give any of these pardoning prizes to any elected official. They have enough trouble as it is. Okay, last question from Mike Southard. Where are you, Mike? From INCS, which stands for? All right. You knew that. I knew that. I knew it. We both knew it. If you don't speak acronyms, they don't think you're educated. So here we go. How can ISBE adjust its licensure process to attract more great educators from around the country? Seems to be a trend on that question. I'll repeat it. How can ISBE adjust the licensure process to attract more great educators from around the country?
You know, one of my favorite charter schools is the Southland Charter School. And Dr. Blondine Davis, who is in the room today, and I'm not just saying this because she's in the room today, she has done not only a remarkable job, but every student in Southland, and they serve students of color and students who are in poverty, every one of the students are at or above grade level. Every one of her seniors have gone on now to a 4-year institution, and they are doing a remarkable job in attracting educators and in keeping educators. And so, number one, I encourage you to meet her and get to know her. But number two, charter schools, like any other schools, are going to have to find dedicated teachers who are willing to make some sacrifices. You know, if you want to get rich, don't become a teacher. And they're going to have to find some that make some great sacrifices. But there are especially some great teachers out here that you guys can attract, because they have a boatload of them in Southland. You can't steal none of them, but they have a boatload of them.
How about a round of applause, Reverend?